Hello and welcome to that Peter Crutch podcast. Notorious SID and Chris Start with me. I'm enjoying the retro jacket today,
How
Chris.
good is that?
Yeah.
Lecoq Sportif.
Yeah, it reminds me of my QPR days. So when I signed for QPR, aged 19, Lecoq Sportif.
Yeah,
Explaining that. Did you buy that old? Like, did you go into a retro shop?
I'll tell you, I found it on. It sounds like an advert, doesn't it? I found it on, Vinted.
Oh yeah.
And I was looking for a Lecoq Sportif old Watford shirts, basically. Saw someone selling this. Thought I'll have. It cost me like £8.
£8.
That's a bargain.
Wow.
Loads of these old J. You should dig them out because I reckon you've got a load, haven't you? These are
I'll
these
probably
sort of
have,
old
yeah.
school
I've probably got an
jackets.
old school like shell suit, tracksuit, Lecoq QPR one.
Rascal shell suit tracksuit.
Did you?
When I was younger. Yeah.
I was really after the England one, 1990. Gaza one.
Yeah.
But you see, like I've started doing this I do it a lot with eBay. Like all those things that you had as a kid but would have just thrown away.
Definitely.
You go on there, like the old. Actually, it kind of links to what this podcast can be about today. Do you remember the old Corinthians? The big heads, little bodies. I had so many. I had England 96 ones, 98, and they've all gone missing over the years. I've got one or two. I've got an Alan Shearer one at home. I've got a couple of United ones as well, and I always remember having a Peter Schmeichel one of them. But I've been going on eBay and just starting to buy a few of those kind of things.
Nice.
Love it.
I'm into that. You know, Abby keeps all her dresses like for Sophia. You know, ones that you feel like have gone out of fashion, whatever. She's thinking, they'll come back round in 10 to 20 years or something. Always looking ahead. But like you say, if you got football shirts from years ago, like I've kept a load of mine, but might be nice one day.
Talking of football shirts, our guest today.
Oh my God. Well, I guess today's Peter Schmeichel.
But I think we're going to get straight into this, aren't we? Because I've heard he likes a chat, which is a good thing for us. There's so much to talk about.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, it's just pure nostalgia, isn't it?
Iconic.
Like, just when I think of the Premier League years, like, he was right at the start of it.
Yeah.
So I would have been 11. Was it 92, the first Premier League season?
Yeah.
11 years old. That's prime watching for me.
I remember he was such a legend of a goalkeeper that kids chose the goalkeepers kit, the Man United goalkeeper kit with his name on the back. It was the thing to have, you know. It was
He brought the fashion,
like
not the fashion side to it, but he brought being a goalkeeper probably a bit more fashionable.
Definitely. Well, it felt like with those big throws, like setting up attacks, just the starfish save. Like he was doing things that I'd never seen before from a goalkeeper, and so commanding, like bullying outfield players.
Yeah.
Like,
I've been so excited for this. I had a bacon sandwich this morning in his honour.
did you?
Just thinking of him,
it's
just to get me excited.
It's what he would have wanted.
He's responsible for bacon going massive at one point, wasn't he?
He
really was.
Yeah.
And you played with
No, I had a
him?
Carlsberg as well on the way.
No.
We should do this with guests more often, just to get you warmed up. In fact, if you want, pause this podcast right now. Go make yourself a bacon sandwich, and then make it more immersive as you listen to Peter Schmeichel.
Yeah, like a pint of Carling and some bacon.
Just pause it now. Go get that sorted, and then enjoy this.
and then enjoy Peter Schmeichel. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Mr. Peter Schmeichel.
The legend.
Hi guys, how are you?
Hey,
We're good, mate. Yeah, we're just working out where you are, Pete. So whereabouts in the world are you?
So I live in Denmark. I lived here for the last 18 years. So I'm a little bit north of Copenhagen, I'm back home.
I see you a bit at some of the games. Obviously, you're still working for bits and pieces, like doing bits of media, and you just travel to and from, do you? Like, because I suppose you could have lived anywhere, but why Denmark? Obviously, it's your home, and that you just feel settled there.
No, to be honest, when we left, I wanted to stay in the UK, but it was just circumstances at the time, and we had to make a decision. We had. One of the kids had been here for 1 year in a school and wanted to stay on, and we didn't feel that she was old enough to be here on her own. So and that's it's just I was working a lot in Denmark as well, so it was just one of them where you think, okay, it doesn't really matter. I was working a lot in England, I was working a lot in Denmark. If I travel from England to here or the other way, it doesn't matter. And so. Went back home and we've been here ever since.
And I mean, it's not, how long did you spend in Manchester?
Oh God, I was there I lived in Manchester for 14 years.
Cool. Wow.
So I was in the area for 14 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you enjoy it? You enjoyed living in England and everything? Like, because I would class you like, one of the first kind of foreign players, but I just, I class you almost as like a Mancunian, really.
I remember when I was in school, we had a school trip to England. Of all places in the world, we ended up in Milton Keynes, and it was brand new back then. I think it was about 10 years old, and I just remember that was the first time I was ever in England, and I just felt that I belonged to England. I loved the football, I loved the culture, I loved the humour. Whenever we can see anything from England on Danish TV, I'll be tuned in, and I absolutely loved it. English was my favorite subject in school, so everything about England was just. And of course, from very young age, I fell in love with Manchester United. So, yeah, I was pointing to England for a very, very long time, and I enjoyed living there. And as I said before, I wasn't really that keen on moving back to Denmark. It was just one of them, Now it's different. It's now I'm settled here, and I've got a different life. It's easy the way I work. I do Premier League from the touchline. I travel over for the games. I do Champions League from the touchline. I travel. It wouldn't have mattered really a lot where I live. So quite happy.
What are the things you miss about England or specifically Manchester? I'm thinking food, the nights out.
Are you serious?
I don't think he mentions that.
Chips and gravy.
Look how much he's buzzing off our food.
I feel slightly insulted on behalf of the country.
Do you know what, Pete? I think every foreign player I've ever played with laughs at our food, thinks it's an absolute disgrace. Genuinely. I don't think Pete's any different, no?
I did try baked beans once. I did. I honestly, I tried to integrate, I really did. I lived in Old Liège, and when I'm back, if I have time, I go around to Old Liège to a bar called the Bubble Room, and I have an English breakfast there. But I take out the baked beans. I take out the mushrooms as well. I think that's a little bit too much for me in the morning.
I do the same.
There's a few things I take out. I mean, I really seriously. I tried very, very hard to integrate and become a local, but there are certain things I can't do. I can't drink 8 pints. I tried. I just can't.
Pete, I can't believe that, mate. You look like you can drink 8 pints. What would listen, we'll get into all the football stuff. We did quite a bit of that as well. Yeah. But what is your drink of choice?
Now it would be either white wine, nice white wine, or champagne. I can't drink beer anymore. I mean, I've gotten to the age, if I have beer, I'm up all night. I'm to and from the bed to the toilet. It's just too much for me. But that comes with age. When I was younger, I was really good at it, but now...
I was going to say, like, when you first integrated into that Manchester United dressing room, that would have been a bit of a drinking culture, really.
I came at the very, very, very end of it.
End of that.
That was what Sir Alex started. That was where he changed. That was his first project to stop that culture. Yeah. So I came at the very end of it. I have to say, when I was at Brøndby, we were the first club to be full-time professionals. So we were kind of pioneers in Denmark of how you do that, how you're supposed to act and conduct yourself and so on. So we had this idea, this is how you are. Then I came to England, and you go away on a Friday to away game, you're in the hotel, and you get wine. You have wine with your pre-match dinner, the night before. I was really shocked, Wine the day before? Are you crazy? And that was only there for the first year, my first year. After that got cancelled as well. So I have to say, in terms of that dressing wasn't that we didn't have that kind of drinking culture there.
Yeah. All right, Pete. So you're doing a documentary, right? It's coming out on Sky. How far back do we go? What should we expect from it?
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, it's important to say, because I have the opportunity to do so, that I have had no say in the context or the content of this documentary. It was really important to me that once I agreed to be part of it, and I, gave my time for it, that it was the people making it. So Owen Davis, who is the director, that it was how they saw me and their story of how I am, what I've done, and where they wanted to go with it. I didn't even help with contacts for anyone other than my wife and my kids. That was it. I said, you have to do everything yourself, because I don't want to have a documentary out there which is manipulated by me. I kind of have one way of looking at myself, and I thought it would be quite interesting to have somebody else looking at me and see what they came up with. So, but they are going back. I found some old films and stuff that I honestly didn't even know what was on those Super 8 films and all that. I didn't, and I just gave
I've
it to them.
got a few films like that
I was going
myself.
to say, is that not risky?
Oh, I know. I was thinking that, but then I'm thinking, oh, it's my mom and dad, so probably not. And it's amazing what was on it, and it actually does go back to quite a long way. So, but it's also a lot about my sort of my family history, which is quite. Can I use the word interesting? It is, because my father was from Poland. And in order to leave Poland that was the end of the 50s, he was forced to become a spy. So there's a story about my father in there
Wow.
that has surprised a lot of people. And it kind of gives not an explanation, but it takes you into an understanding of, at least it did for me, understanding of why I am the way I am and how I'm wired and why I think the way I do and stuff like that. So I found it really interesting. I'm not going to say too much about this story about my father being a spy, but he did have to agree to become a spy for Poland. So spying in Denmark in order to leave Poland to come up to his wife. They were already married, and she was pregnant with my sister. So he had to leave. So he had to agree to that. And he also, when he came to Denmark, reporting himself to the authorities, and he then got sent to prison, and they didn't know what to do with this guy. And then they said, well, he could spy for us. So he was a double agent on quite a low level, I have to say. I mean, my father was a pianist, so it wasn't. But it's interesting because I got an email the other day from a professor who is investigating, or he's doing studies on the Cold War, and especially Poland, because what's happened now, that all the documents from that time has now been released, and he has found my father in there. This is 2 days ago, by the way. He's found my father in there, and there's a code name. There's a lot. A whole story about him, and he's asked me, "Would you be interested in it?" And I'm like, "Of course, I'll be interested in it." So there might be a sequel to my story there that even I find interesting. So, but that story. That bit of the first bit is in the documentary as well.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Unreal.
Was he into his football, Peter?
My father was a weird guy in many ways, because first of all, he desperately wanted me to be a musician. I mean, he pushed me so much on becoming a pianist. And when I was a kid, I was forced to sort of, obviously I took lessons and practice, and I could hear my friends playing football, and he was ice cold. No, you have to do this. This is where you're going. And then the way everything happened and developed, he said, well, he'd always been a Man United fan. That's what he said. What? I didn't know that. But he's always been into, especially boxing. Boxing was his big thing. Not that he was ever big enough to my father was a small guy, by the way, but not that he was ever into any sports himself. He was kind of a sort of an articulate man. He was a pianist, so his fingers were always nice, and his nails were always filed down, and they all looked good. And he was that kind of guy, So I don't think he was ever good at any sports, but he was really interested in football. He was, and of course, the more my career progressed, the more and more he got interested. And another thing that happened the other day was, my father passed away 6 years ago, and we have, in the last 6 months, we've put my mum in a nursing home. She's 91, and we've started to sort of clean up, not clean up, but go through all the stuff in the apartment, and so we were in the basement the other day, and I found every single shirt, apart from the European Championship shirt, 92, every single shirt that I've played in for Man United, we found that neatly tucked away, in an airtight bag. And they're here. Unbelievable.
Wow.
I didn't know that existed, because back then we never swapped shirts. It wasn't a thing back then. If you played an international, you would swap with the opposite goalkeeper. That was it. Now you swap, or you get a shirt every game. So that's a rarity. So I found that. I'm really grateful for it.
That's brilliant.
But he was unbelievably into football. He was, and of course, there is a clip in the documentary where he says he regrets that I never became a pianist, but it turned out quite well anyway for him. So,
So that was your father that kept all those shirts?
Yeah. It's just, and they were nicely folded. They were in as I say, in an airtight bag. It was really, honestly, unbelievable.
Peter, I hadn't really thought of it like that, but goalies have quite an easy swap, don't they? So I didn't think the goalies always swap with the opposition goalie. I mean, you don't have a situation where goalies swap with outfield players. Is that just sort of doesn't really happen?
Not really,
does it?
no.
You see goalkeepers
Depends
changing
on who you
jerseys.
are.
Yeah. You reckon? And also, I would say your dad must be so proud of you musically as well, because weren't you part of the United song that ended up getting in the charts anyway? So you did have a kind of some music success.
I'll show you.
Oh, it's there.
Hold on.
Oh, what's coming? Here we go. There we go. Pride of place. Look at that. Wow.
What does that say? Can you read it?
Sales. It's presented to me. So we all got this. We sold more than 400,000 copies of "Come On You Reds."
Come on,
Use your bottle and use your Reds
for 90 minutes. We'll let them know it's Man United. Here we go.
I'll be honest with you, I don't have much allegiance to Manchester United, but I've got to say that was a tune.
I remember
Good
that.
tune.
Yeah, no, that was good. Honestly, that was really good fun. And we did it with Pete Waterman, and he had a studio in a church, an old church in Stratford. So it was a really good day, and we've got that now, 400,000 copies.
There you
That's
go.
not bad.
That's not bad at all.
No.
So where does it start then, Pete? Obviously, your father's trying to get you into being a pianist, and where do you then go out and play football? And then obviously, where do you learn the art of goalkeeping? Because I think it is an art, and I think you did kind of transform the position, really. It was the way you were played as a goalkeeper was very different to what we'd seen previous. You kind of pioneer of goalkeeping.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about that, but I grew up in a place where there were thousands of kids, and we had those, I mean, right outside of my the flat we had were all the football pitches, and we would be back from school and straight out playing football. If I could, see, my father, as he was a musician, so he would work evenings and nights. So if I could get in the house, put my school back down before he woke up, I'd be out playing football. And then he could shout and scream, and I would never come back and practice the piano. If I got back when he was up, I had to sit and practice the piano. Anyway, for a couple of hours or an hour or whatever, and then I'd go out. And we literally played football all the time. But of course, in Denmark, back then I remember them as really hard winters. So you could never play outside. So instead of playing football, we would then play handball. So half the year, maybe 4 or 5 months a year, we'd play handball, and then for the rest of it, we'd play football. So and we would play. So we would play years. So I'm born in '63. So 1 year I would play with the kids who were born in '64, and 1 year I would play with the '62s. And when we played with the '62s, there was a goalkeeper in that group. So I played outfield in handball. That came in really, really useful for me, obviously with football, because I learned the technique of throwing a ball. But when I played with the 64s, I was in goal. That was even more useful, because when you play in goal in handball, it's like ice hockey. You are kind of 50% of the team. If you are not very good, you will concede so many goals and you'll lose the game. If you're good, then of course you'll make saves. You're not going to save every ball, but you're going to make saves. And the way you do that is very often to trick the guy with the finish, trick them in to do what you want. That's, doing different shapes in order to, so you open up some part of the goal, and then at the moment of execution, you close that down. And all that, of course, became second nature to me. And I couldn't differentiate between football and handball. So I learned from handball that just stopping the ball from going in the net, is successful. That's success. So obviously, being a kid and bringing that into football, didn't even think so much about it. Just stopping the ball from going to the back of the net. So in that, I developed my style of goalkeeping, and that's basically it.
So that literally is the trademark starfish, because that is the most common save. I take it in handball, isn't it? So when you come out, because very rarely was that seen before.
No,
before
not
Pete
at all.
done it.
Yeah, and I think even the way you distribute the ball as well, you can see lots of remnants of handball, because I don't know, I think you might be the only one person I've seen hold a football with one hand and ping it out to people, and obviously the starfish kind of save technique, that I've seen that in handball as well.
Yeah, and the thing about handball, another I think quite important thing as well, is that behind the goal there's also a net. So if it doesn't hit the goal, it hits a net, and the ball is then in play. You have to restart as a goalkeeper. So when somebody went up for a shot, the wingers would straight away, go the other way. If they didn't hit, obviously, I would get the ball and I would then start a counter-attack. And now also they've changed the rules, so even when they score, you don't have to wait for the other team to get back to their own half. So the game is very, very quick, and it's all about using every opportunity of the other team's imbalance to create your chances. And of course, if you play like that, and I have to say I played with the same guys in handball as I played football. So we just developed that. It was, that nobody ever taught us to do that. Nobody ever said to do it. We just did it because it was, it was just what you did. So it came in quite handy. You start playing with players like Ryan Giggs, Andrew Kanchelskis. You had to find certain areas of the pitch where they could run into certain spaces. It was brilliant.
But I was literally, that is literally what my next question was going to be. Did you have to, when you had that, obviously it's something, because you were the first I ever saw start counterattacks, that big throw, and you'd be pinging it out to the winger. You'd bypass the fullback. The throw would be that big. It would be into the space, and you'd have Sharp and Kanchelskis running onto it. Did you have to kind of coach them into it, or did you just do it by doing it and making them run?
When I got to Man United, the dressing room was incredibly talented. I mean, these guys. I mean, you mentioned Sharp there. It was Giggs, Sharp, Kanchelskis. You had Mark Hughes. Mark Hughes was an unbelievable player to play with, because I could literally just throw the ball to him. It didn't matter if he had one or two guys behind him. He would literally take it down. And then you would have your midfield players, which would be like Paul Ince or Brian McClare, running towards the goal that we were attacking. And he would just lay it up for them. So, with one throw, you could kind of win 40, 50 yards for free, for absolutely free. You need to have the players who are capable of bringing the ball down. Or if for instance, corner kick or cross, I'd come for that. Straight away, I'd be looking for Andre, Sharpie, or Giggsy, because they had the pace to outrun anyone. And my ideal scenario would be for whoever played on the left, so Sharpie or Giggsy, because then I could spin it that way around, so I could actually get it further away from the defender, and then it just spin back into basically the path that we're running at. It was a bit more difficult with Andre because he was on the right hand side, so it had to be a more sort of straight throw, and it had to go over somebody, and it wasn't always successful. But no, it was brilliant. It was brilliant to have those players. And once you've done it one time, as soon as they realized that this was on the table, they just honestly just tacked into it. It was brilliant to play with these guys because they just understood straight away.
So, Pete, how does the move to Manchester United come around? And did you have any other options?
I think I played a part in it myself because I had an agent. I mean, back then we didn't have agents, so it was quite unusual for somebody to come and ask, if I wanted him to represent him or work with him. They would normally just come and say, we have this club or we have this opportunity to you. But to actually work with an agent that actively was going out there trying to get you to where you were was very, very unusual. So I had this guy coming up to me saying, I want to work with you. And what do you want? And I said, I want to get to Man United. And I think he started straight away, throwing my name towards Man United. And what I know now is that Sir Alex Ferguson quite quickly after that started to send people over to scout me. So I don't know when and how and all that he made a decision, but when I was about to have one of my greatest ambitions fulfilled, playing for Denmark against England at Wembley. That was a massive, massive thing for me. I was still at Brøndby at the time. So I'm having my afternoon kip in the hotel on the day of the game. And my agent phoned me up and said, we've got 3 offers now. There are 3 official offers for you. And it was West Ham, Liverpool, and Man United. And of course, we've been working with on Man United. So that was the one that we were trying to get over the line. And unfortunately, it didn't happen. That was 1990. That it didn't happen because Brøndby asked for far too much money.
How much is far too much?
It was too much. It was 1.2 million.
It's crazy when it's just a different game, isn't it?
Yeah. They didn't want to go to that. So and of course I was devastated, and so was Sir Alex Ferguson. And what happened was he came. So my agent had somebody, he was Norwegian, so he had somebody in Denmark helping him out. And he phoned me just before I left for training this morning and said, when you've done training, come around to my house, which wasn't unusual. So I just did that, And when I came to the house, Alex Ferguson was there. And this is like early September. And he goes, I know you're devastated. So am I. I mean, I wanted this to happen, but I know I've seen what I want. So I'm going to come back for you in the summer. So make sure you play well and make sure you come in your best shape. That's like shook my hand and left. And I'm like, totally, whoa. So I kind of knew for a very long time that I was going to Man United. And even though I really wanted to go that year, because of what had happened and stubbornness and everything, I threw myself into the, worked so hard. I set myself targets that, I wanted to be the best player in Denmark. I wanted to Player of the Year. I wanted to win everything that was possible to win. And back then, all the newspapers, they had different sort of awards for the best player or whatever they called it. I wanted to win every single one of them. I wanted there to be absolutely no doubt about my status in Danish football. So I worked really hard, and we ended up doing. We got knocked out by Roma in the UEFA Cup in the semi-final in the last minute. Last minute. Rudi Völler. I never forget Rudi Völler. Even when I meet him, I go like. But that's still to this date is the best result a Danish team has ever achieved in Europe. So in many ways, that 1 year that I was forced to stay in Brøndby was also a really good year because I worked hard. I came to Man United in the best shape that I've ever been in, and I came with so much confidence for what I'd achieved that year. So, but I knew, and it was brilliant. I mean, the manager was absolutely fantastic with me. So, I had my big dream was coming true.
What was the final fee was what exactly?
Yeah, I think the final fee was 505,000.
Oh, it's not. It's
well spent.
I've seen as much as 750,000, but I don't know. Honestly, don't know because that was not. I wasn't involved in that. So, to be fair, I didn't. I mean, I was obviously devastated that I didn't go that 1 year. But I was so I didn't care about the money. They could have got me for free. Of course, the chairman didn't know that at the time, but he could have got me for free. I would have played for Man United for free at the time.
But it's so obvious from what you're saying there that you had this real love for Man United, and that really was the only option. Was there anything Liverpool could have done to get you, or was it ever a sort of temptation in your mind?
No, never.
So it's not true you wrote a letter to Graham Souness then?
No, I don't know where that's. I mean, I tell you what, if Suey is listening in, I'd like to see that letter. I'd like to see it. I think somebody's had him on. I tell you, we played in Copenhagen. We played Wales. And of course, Jan Mulby was in the team, and after the game, he said to me to come out and meet Ian Rush, and we went. We had quite a good night in Copenhagen after that game, and I saw somebody who could really drink a beer, by the way, but that is a different story. But
is that Jan Mulby or Ian Rush?
That was Rush. Rush was brilliant, by the way. But I had quite a good game against Russia, and he said to me, "Oh, you should come to us. You should come to us." And I mean, this story about the letter could have come from that night. Because, in all fairness, if you had a couple, you don't really know what you've said the next morning, do you? So,
no. You accidentally signed for Liverpool.
Yeah, that's very true. Obviously you've got the Brøndby Roma game behind you. I see on the wall. How big is the because when you won the European Championships in '92 with Denmark, I mean that was an unbelievable achievement. But then you've got the achievement of the treble with Manchester United. Does the country thing kind of, is it bigger for you than the treble, is what I'm trying to get at?
It's not really. I mean, obviously it's a question I get asked quite often, which one is the best and most important. I actually add another one to it, because we won the first Premier League, and that was 26 years after winning the last championship for Man United. And Man United understanding of itself is that we're a football club that are supposed to win the championship. But waiting for 26 years, it was a long, long, long wait. So once that happened, it was an unbelievable experience to see how the perception of the club, the perception of us players, how that changed, and all of a sudden, our lives changed as well. We became somebody different. We weren't just Man United players. We were now Man United players who won the championship. So I always add that into it because that was an incredible experience to be part of that team. But to win a trophy for your country is very, very, very special. And it lives on today. We talk about it all the time. No, not all the time. We're not sitting every night talking about it. But everywhere we go and we talk about football, that comes up, and it's still something that we are immensely proud of. But the treble, is. It's difficult to explain how that journey was. The journey was so weird and so crazy and. We were so bad all the way up till Christmas. We were so bad that year. We scrambled through the group phase of the Champions League. We're in the group with Barcelona, Bayern Munich, and Brøndby, and we drew all the games with Bayern Munich and Barcelona. I think Barcelona was 3-3 at home and 3-3 away, and Bayern was 2-2 away and 2-2 at home. And we beat Brøndby 6-2 and 5-0, and the goal difference took us through. So it was a goal difference that we weren't great, to be fair.
Fine margin.
And then we have a game against Middlesbrough right before Christmas, and we lost it at home. And that was the only time that the manager wasn't there. He was somewhere. He was at a funeral somewhere, and we were so bad. And in the dressing room, we just agreed that we would not lose another game. We will not lose another game. And Dwight Yorke started to say, "Oh, if we win," and he was counting out, win the next 38 games, we would have had an unbelievable season. And all of a sudden, you get to 3 games. If you win the next 3, one in the Premier League, one obviously the final, the FA Cup, and the Gem, and it was just so weird because that was kind of a saying in the dressing room that. And
that's just on
course,
that's incredible. So you had this meeting as players when Sir Alex wasn't there, and it was almost him not being there that kind of forced you to take this thing on yourselves. And who are the main people who kind of made that happen in that moment? Because that feels like a real turning point in that season.
You think about who we were at the time. We never lost a game at Old Trafford. I mean, it was very rare that we would lose a game. And we lost this game and we're just really bad. We're just bad. It was, I don't know what it was. It was just one of those games. You come off the game and you cannot explain why we were the way we were. And I think we've all had games like that where you just go, whoa, what happened there? Why did it go like that? But we were really bad. And the thing is that he wasn't there, was maybe why we were so embarrassed, because do we really need the manager to be there in order to do our job well? Well, so we just agreed, and it was everyone really, this is not good enough. We have to do a lot better. And we never lost a game after that.
Who was most integral? Like, I know there's so many factors in winning that amount of competitions, but is there one player that you felt you looked to? Is there one player that in that team that really galvanised the team? I know there's so many factors to choose and different pods of form.
I don't want to go there because not mentioning certain players would be an insult, because everyone, and I mean everyone, played a part. I think the best games that I've ever been involved with was the 2 semi-finals against Arsenal. So we played the first one on the Sunday, it was a draw, and then we played the replay on the Wednesday.
Villa Park.
And when you look, he plays a very, very strong team with names, as close as you can get to what you would consider our best 11 on the Sunday. But on the replay on the Wednesday, which is then sandwiched in between, I can't remember who we played in the league, but we had the following Wednesday, we would have Juventus in the Champions League semi-final. I mean, everything was happening around that time. He then played a completely different team. And if you look at, I don't know if you watched the 99 film that came out last year, I think it was. It's incredible how Phil Neville, the nice guy, Phil Neville, he just goes, fucking hell, that guy really trusts us. The team he puts out for that game against Arsenal, against Arsene Wenger,
Do you think, just touching on that, because when I look at that dressing room, like I think of, all the big characters, very serious characters, like you say, someone just to put that element of and make people at ease, that, and just relieve some of the pressure, because you must have been putting yourselves under immense pressure, just because the players you are. Listen, I've played with some players that they look like they're carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders, but but they managed to cope with it somehow. That little bit of relief that you say Dwight Yorke's providing must have been really good for
It was fantastic. But Pete, when you sit in the dressing room, you look around and you just look at these players and you think, bloody hell, these are the best players in the world. There isn't anywhere else that I would want to be. You look at, you got Gary Neville, who was a fantastic right back, and he was an even better right back when he played behind David Beckham, who was an unbelievable player that people like Dwight, Andy Cole, maybe. I know I've heard Ruud van Nistelrooy say that he's the best player they've ever played with, because he just literally just served it on a platter for them, and they scored so many goals off his crosses. You got Dennis Irvin on the other side. You got Ronnie Johnson in the middle with Jaap Stam. I mean, come on, Jaap Stam. You don't need any other defenders if you have Jaap Stam in front of you. Scholesy, Keno, midfield. I mean, the engine room was so powerful, so strong, and then the football intelligence was so at such a high level. You got David Beckham out there, you got Ryan Giggs out there, and then you got Dwight Yorke, Andy Cole, Teddy Sheringham, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. You still got Nicky Butt. I mean, these guys were unbelievable.
Can I just touch on the manager? Sorry, Sid, just quickly. Just touch on the manager. Number one, to recruit players like that. Number one, to create a culture where it kind of polices itself. And then do it multiple times. Obviously, he's done it throughout generations, really, and the players have changed, but the beliefs have always been the same. How difficult is that to do, and how good is he?
First of all, I think it's impossible to do now, because that there won't be any managers who will get that amount of time to go through more than one team. You can allowed to create one team, and once that team's not winning, you get the sack. That I think that's a reality of management today. Now, first of all, a lot of those players from the 90s, he produced them himself. He wanted Man United to be the football club that took in all the great talent around Manchester. All of it. That was part of his plan from 1986 when he came into the club. Change the culture. There's a bit of a drinking culture. We'll touch on that. Change that, and then we want young, fresh, hungry players, and then you spice it up with players that you find. Roy came from Nottingham. Just wherever you need someone extraordinary. Dwight Yorke, of course, came from Aston Villa. And that's what he did. And the first time where I really thought the guy's losing it, not understanding what he was doing, was when we got to I think it was the summer of 95, where, 3 players who would start every game if they were fit, Mark Hughes, Paul Ince, and Andrei Konchesky, left the club, and no one came in.
I remember thinking that.
Yeah.
I remember thinking to myself, this is when the kids were coming through, right?
Yeah. And he puts five kids in the first team squad, in the first team dressing room. So puts Nicky, Gary, Phil, Scholesy, and Beggs. Ryan was already in that first team dressing room, so he would have been the number 6. But you're thinking, whoa, what's going on here? And of course, we open up with a defeat to Aston Villa at Villa Park, and then I don't know. I trust on that so many times. The trust that he had in his players, the way he was building them up, the way he was never in doubt about his decisions on his team selection. Never. It didn't matter. Even if we had periods where we had injured players, very important players injured. And it wasn't like I felt, today it's going to be difficult, because I never, ever thought that. I never. And that comes from the manager. When he trusts his players and the squad that he has so much, then, of course, as a player, you start thinking the same way.
Pete, when he brought them in, obviously you was a big voice and a big personality in the dressing room then. Did you think, especially after that first game against Villa, did you sit down and think, this isn't the way? Because obviously they've just come in, or did you realise that they was good enough to produce what they ended up doing for Manchester United?
We always thought that they were going to come through. In all fairness, it wasn't like sort of sprung on us. It was they've been taking part in games over the kind of like the year and a year and a half before. They're coming in playing some of the League Cup games, and there were 1 or 2 players would be in the match day squad for Premier League games. So it was not like they were alien to us and unknown. And of course, we've already seen what they could do in the youth, when they were in the youth team. And of course, back then, most of the players always went and watched the reserves play. So we also saw them. So it wasn't like that. You sat there in the dressing room thinking. The one thing I think at the time was it was a bit strange that he didn't bring one player in from outside, because it was always the excitement was who's going to come in this summer. We very rarely brought somebody in during the winter transfer window, apart from Eric, of course. That wasn't a window, but that was in the middle of the season. But it was always that sort of excitement around who's going to come in, who's he going to bring in the summer, and then no one came in, and that was more that was really weird. Then it was, oh my God, now we're going to play with the young players, because I don't know, in a way I just felt that they were part of the squad anyway. But they were brilliant, by the way.
And Alan Hansen's famous quote was, "You don't win anything with kids," right? Did that spur you on? Did you talk about that in the dressing room?
To be honest, not to my sort of recollection, because when we lost that game, start losing, 3-1, the way they scored the goals, it wasn't particularly nice. On that, actually, I think I think I played against you at Villa Park. I lost as well. I think Darius Vassell scored, and I think you flicked it on. Is that right?
That might have been true. I'll take it.
Your first.
It was either me or Ian Ormondroyd.
Then I'm thinking if I think you had a big chance that I saved. I hope I'm right. Or you would remember this.
I would have.
That was your first year.
At United. You were at United. I was at Villa.
Think you came. When did he sign you? He signed you in the middle of the season, didn't he?
I went to Villa, January 2004, maybe?
No.
2003, 4? Yeah. Yeah. Pete, do you remember that I actually played with you at Villa or not?
We didn't.
What? We didn't play together?
Did you come? You were the first signing you made. No, but you were.
Great. I made a massive impact on Peter Schmeichel.
No. So no, that's what I'm saying. It was 2000.
Yeah, I came to Villa.
2001.
He doesn't remember.
2000. You're right. It was 2001.
It's 2000. Yeah.
I would say it was a little bit earlier.
You were the first player he brought in.
Well, Graham Taylor.
Yeah.
So you do remember that I was at Villa with you?
Of course I do.
All right. I thought you were saying that I was playing.
I was thinking about have we ever played against each other, and it just hit me there. I think when I played the next season, I played for Man City. I think I played against you there.
That would have, 100% we did.
And I think, as far as I remember, that it's a cross, and I think that you flicked it on. And Darius scored, and we lost it 1-0.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking I didn't play against you when you were at Man United. I played against you at Manchester City, and I was at Villa. Because I remember being in the dressing room, and I remember walking in to the change room at Villa. You were still there. Ronnie Johnson was there. Dion Dublin. You had Steve Staunton. You had Steve Stone, David Ginola, Paul Merson.
No, David wouldn't have. Ginola wouldn't have been there.
Yeah,
because he. No, on the day where Graham Taylor took over, he left for Everton. He straight away that same afternoon.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, God, your memory's better than mine. Yeah,
I'm always amazed by Crouchy's memory on these things.
So John Gregory left his job, and we were all a bit disappointed because we were having a really good season, really, and Doc Ellis comes in the next morning and says, "Get everybody in the canteen. I want to introduce you to a new manager." And it was him. It was Graham Taylor, and he talked for about an hour, and then he woke us up and said, I want to see the first team in the first team dressing room," and he talked for another hour, and then he left. And Paul Merson, who knew him from England, he laughed, and we go, "What's happening?" He points to David Ginola. He goes, "You're out." And I was sat next to him. No, Dian was sat next to him, and I was sat next to Dian. So he goes to Dian, and Dian, "You're out." And Pete, "You're out." And he goes, "And I'm out. We're finished at this club." You know? And David Ginola was out that very same afternoon. He was on loan to Everton. And I lasted for about, I think, 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah.
I mean, listen, it was amazing for me as a young player because I walk into that dressing room and all those names that I've just mentioned there. You know, I've grown up watching you guys. You know, so and I've just come from the Championship. I played for QPR Portsmouth, and I walk into that dressing room, and obviously all the Premier League at that time. You know, that was all I watched.
But so, Crouchy,
so then being in that dressing room was
what's the most iconic kit that you associate Peter Schmeichel with? I think I've got an answer.
My one would be the green
with the blue in the middle.
Yeah, like the flex little.
The green one.
Yeah, the green. Yeah, baggy.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, Peter?
The big 99 one tucked in, and you were a tucked in man as well, weren't you?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
We've got a theory on this podcast that every team needs a player with a tucked in shirt to succeed.
All right. That's a good theory.
I just feel like a tucked in shirt on a man.
I tucked in because I always had a bad back, right? So I used to play with one of them thick back belts, right?
Oh yeah.
So in order to keep that in place, I had to tuck my shirt in, because you sort of closed it in the front. So if I hadn't tucked it, it would sort of kind of get in the way. You know what I'm saying? So I always tucked it in, kept that in place.
Do you know there was a thing I read?
So-
I don't know if this is true, Pete. It's something I read years ago that you were involved. This was probably bollocks, but that you were involved in the designing of the colourful kits so you could put off strikers. Is this
No.
the vibe? Is that
No.
someone had me on there?
But if I had a choice, sometimes, I mean, in the early days of the Premier League, you had a choice of what shirts you would play in. So, for instance, in that treble year, that green jersey was my absolute favorite Man United jerseys playing. But there was another one which was the same style, but it was dark. It was kind of very dark blue. And I think the idea was for that to be the first choice kit, and I picked the green one. So you could kind of have a little bit of today you can't. Today it's you can't clash with the referee, and the sock's got to be this and the sock's got to be that. Today it's different, but no, I had some really, really good shirts, but I also had some not so great shirts.
Pete, while we're talking about attire, you was prone to wearing the odd tracksuit bottoms as well, which I think should be illegal for goalkeepers. What was the reasoning behind? What was the reasoning behind the bottoms?
Right. So why should that be illegal?
Oh, because a goalkeeper. Why would a goalkeeper wear bottoms? Is it to protect your legs, or is it because you're cold?
So sometimes when you play for Man United, sometimes you're not in the game. Just stood there.
What an answer!
You got to wrap up.
Oh, brilliant!
Yeah, I thought it looked quite good.
Oh my God.
But you think about it. It's interesting you say that, because if you have that thought and you bring that onto the pitch, the goalkeeper looks ridiculous, then 1-2% of your focus and concentration is off already, So I try that a lot, I try to be annoying, and I try to sort of make my opponent think about me and not focus on the ball or the chance that we're getting, or little things like that. And it was something I had to bring onto my game quite quickly, because when I first started, it went really well. It went really well for 4 games. My first 4 games was clean sheets, and obviously didn't know so much about all the other teams and who were in the other teams. And they kept saying, "Yeah, just wait till you meet Fash. Just wait for Fash," because I was coming for crosses and I was having I was having a ball. It was, I'm thinking, okay, this is not so difficult, right? Then we meet Wimbledon and Fash, and they've been saying this for weeks. And all I can think about in the game is Fash. Who's this Fash? Where's Fash? And of course, he ended up scoring, and I made a mistake, and he scored from that, And I'm thinking, that was really annoying. I was thinking about somebody else.
Mental.
Now I've got to try and get people to think about me like that. If they can think about me when they, for instance, pull the trigger, that they're shooting up against me, they're having the chance to get me, then maybe I get a little bit of the upper hand there. So I try to do that.
Yeah. Pete, what was... I know we've got to wrap this up very soon, but I could talk to you for about 3 hours, by the way, but because a lot of nostalgia coming back to me now. I think about games that you've played in, right? What was probably your best performance, you would say? Because I remember how important the Newcastle game was, where Cantona scores, that goal, and it felt like that 1-0 win was probably the catalyst to you winning the league that season. Would you say? I mean, for me, that was the game I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, it was a really important day for our team, and I also knew going into the game that it was going to be a very important day for me in terms of my contribution to the team, because we've been through a long period of injuries to very very important players, key players that would play every game, and we had some of those players coming back for that game. So you first of all, you're missing players. It's a makeshift back four. Gary Neville plays centre half, which he was capable of doing, but of course you get. I mean, you have your spine of the team is really important, and once that kind of upset a little bit. There was always something happening. Yeah, Steve Bruce just coming back from injury. Gary Pallister still out injured. Dennis Irvin is playing right back. Phil Neville's playing. So it was kind of makeshift. And I knew it was going to be difficult because Newcastle were on such great form. And so, of course, to be able to write the storm off as we did, and of course they had so many chances in the first 20, 25 minutes, was brilliant. And of course, looking back, very, very proud that I played that way. But in all honesty, I'm not even thinking about that in the game. I'm just focusing on that bit for the team because I knew it was going to be difficult. And then you look back after, we were 12 points behind at the beginning of that game, but we had 2 games in hand. So the manager is talking about 2 games in hand as already won. So we were 6 points behind. So he's saying you win this game, you're 3 points behind.
Wow.
Being 12 points is a lot. Doesn't matter how many games in hand you have. 12 points is still 12 points. And he's making it 3 points in the team talk, which was brilliant. And so I knew, my role today is going to be very, very, very important. And of course, it's probably one of my best games. But I also have games where, I have one little bit of to do in the game, and it's an important thing I do. And I consider them very, very good as well. Because that, I think, is the most difficult part of being a goalkeeper, is that you're not involved. You're in a sort of reactive position. You can't do anything proactively, or you can't go out there and look for anything to do. You actually have to wait for things to happen. So you can on a frost hard pitch in February away from home somewhere on a Tuesday night, you can stand there and do nothing for 89 minutes, and then all of a sudden you have to do something. And when you do that, the satisfaction is incredible that you've actually taken part in this game and done something to either save the point or to make sure the win was achieved.
Well, listen, Pete, there's so much more that I want to ask you, but obviously we do have to wrap this up. But I genuinely could talk to you all day, and we'd love to have you on. Please give our love to Casper as well, because Casper's a friend of the show. He's been on.
I just have one thing,
pod.
Pete, before, because I consider you to be one of the bravest ex-footballers, whatever. All the things you've done, and I really enjoy everything that you do. But what I don't understand is, why have you not been on Strictly yet?
Great question.
Oh, yes. Good question, mate.
Because he's no moves.
You know why? My missus won it, and I'm quite competitive. And I just think in the household, the dynamic shift, it would be too much. But you've been on, right?
I've been on.
How was it?
I was very good, first of all. I was probably, a lot of people would describe me as terrible, but I enjoyed it. It was 3 years? Yeah, I think it was 3 years after I retired. And it kind of brought the discipline of having to train and do your best and all of that back. So I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed being part of, a big TV production. But I have to say that I had no talent for it, and I knew quite quickly that it wasn't something that I was going to take up after the show was finished and I got knocked out. But I really did enjoy it. I thought it was a fantastic experience, and it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about being around cameras and being, I've worked a lot in TV at the time, but it was punditry. It was like this. It was just. If I got asked to do it now, how do I frame that? If I hadn't done it and I got asked to do it, knowing what I know, I would still probably say yes.
Yeah. Go on. Brilliant. Nice. All right. Well, listen, you never know. You might see me out there.
I'm not going back.
No,
you should do it.
I'm talking about me. I'm just worried. I'm just worried about the. There's only so many robots you can do. If I pulled it out of the first in the first week, do you know what I mean? It's my trump card. I'm done now.
No, you got to be better. It's a tactics there. So you have a following from football and all that, and that will take you so long. And then you get to a point where now it's a competition, and then you bring it out. Then you bring all your choppers out.
That's it, mate. That's exactly what you do.
This is a team talk about winning Strictly
team
from
talk.
Peter Schmeichel.
He's learned from Sir Alex Ferguson. There you go. Pete, listen, absolute pleasure. Good luck with the documentary. Listen, we'll all be watching it.
100%.
It looks fantastic. And like I say, the nostalgia is amazing, and just love listening to you talk, because you've been a big part of all our lives. You played for the wrong team. It could have been so different, but...
I played for the right team.
That's a little bite.
Top man, mate. Great to see you.
Cheers, Pete.
Thanks a lot, guys. Cheers. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay, well, hopefully you finished your bacon sandwiches and your Carlsberg, and you've enjoyed Peter Schmeichel, because we certainly did.
We didn't even touch the sides of that, did we?
No, we got nowhere near it, really. We need 4 more hours with him.
Yeah.
I think we get him back. I think we get him back in.
We can't get him on her.
I think so.
Do you know what I want him to do? If we can get him on at some point, if he can bring that bag of shirts.
Yes.
Because imagine he didn't even know that. And then all of a sudden he's found
some iconic shirts there as well.
The bag must be huge. I mean, he said it was vacuumed, but it must be huge, because them shirts he was wearing, they weren't slim fit. They was baggy.
They weren't slim fit.
They were huge.
No,
like this.
Yeah.
What a guy, though. Really enjoyed that.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, and hopefully you enjoyed it, guys. We'll see you next week.